Hello, hello everyone. Welcome to the Café Croissant of April, a virtual Café Croissant. We are here together getting our coffee. My coffee is right here and ready to start being with you. Now, what happened last month? I guess we all had interesting things to tell, interesting new experience to share. But today, unlike the first Café Croissant that I managed to handle from my terrace with the beautiful weather, but I was all alone. This time, I'm happy to tell you that I will not be alone because we are joining forces with Genius, our initiator program that we do in collaboration with Eclosion Foundation and EPFL Innovation Park Foundation. And so I'm glad to have as a guest for this Café Croissant, sharing with me the stage and telling a bit more what's going on at Genius. Ingeborg Albert. Ingeborg, are you there? She might not be
So,
there.
sorry, here we go. I'm bringing Ingeborg.
Yes. Where is Ingeborg? She is. Hello, Ingeborg.
Hi,
How
good
are you
morning.
doing? And but Ingeborg, not only Ingeborg. So you see here at Fongit, we are trying to push the boundaries of technologies even further. And so I'm glad also to introduce the other person that will share with us the stage today for making this Café Croissant even more interactive and dynamic. I'd like to introduce James Miners. Are you there from his lab?
Good morning. Yes, I'm here with my tea and biscuit.
Okay, good. Fantastic. So you can tell us a bit more what's on your slab, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm here at the Fongit Control Center, connecting coaches with companies and making sure that our startups are getting all the support that they need. And I'll be sharing all the exciting online events that are coming up in the next month.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, I think we can start, and I think by starting, I will start with this slide. This is a bit the way personally I feel in the sense that I personally feel like a marmot now. Not only I see here some comments about the Italian coffee from Olivier. Yes, you're right. We also miss our Italian coffee, but I brought my personal machine here. And so I can try to make it at least trying to be as good as the one we have at Blue Box. But I feel a bit like the marmot and getting out the head from the hole and trying to sniff around to see what's going on and how this new normal, this new way of seeing the world will look like. And we at Fongit were always asked by different many entrepreneurs, Antonio, James, Ingeborg, how can we adapt to this new world? Of course, the first recommendation we tell them is try to observe the way it's going to look like. And the best way I find for defining this new world, there are many definitions of what this kind of new economy will look like, provided that it's going to be a new economy, but I personally think so. It can look like a social distancing economy, but I don't like very much this definition because it implies social real distance. And by the way, I don't feel like being social distant to from all of you. Quite the opposite, since we are talking a lot, even more frequently than usual. So I think that the best definition has been provided by a report we just read last week, and it talks about a low-touch economy. So no matter what, the way we are going to see our world moving forward is a world that is going to be an economy associated with that is going to be probably more more low touch. So we will touch ourselves less, which is not necessarily a bad thing, actually. So avoiding all these hugs and which might be a good way to keep a low touch distance, but not social distance. And with that in mind, I think that we can start to think about how we can benefit of all these opportunities of this low touch economy about to come. I find interesting, for example, the way this report that you will find in the source in the bottom left corner, and if you don't see it, yes, now it's bigger, so you can always refer to our socials for all the source of information we're going to provide today. This report is, in my opinion, a very interesting one, because in a very summarized but effective way, it gives you what is a low touch economy is going to be, and how we can move towards this low touch economy and benefiting from it. For our entrepreneurs, I believe, and we believe, that we are approaching now two different ways of interacting with this period. On one hand, so there's 3 moments, right? You have the from 0 to 3 weeks, the pure reaction, from the 3rd to the 6th week, how we start to deal with this new thinking, the new mindset, and from the 6th week on, how we're going to execute this new setup we want to establish for our companies. What I find interesting is that you can divide the defense approach to the more offensive approach. So more reactive approach to the more proactive approach. And in terms of reactive approach, in particular, the first 3 weeks of this crisis that actually completely changed our mind, we had to adapt as soon as possible to take all the possible measures for running economic and financial scenarios about our company, about our P&L, trying to keep our operations afloat, and trying actually to protect, first of all, health and safety of our employees and our customers. So this process took more or less 3 weeks. And if you remember, last month, last Café&Croissant, we actually gave a lot of these elements, how to protect and how to start to put ourselves into this different setup for ourselves and the companies as well. So this has been the first 3 weeks, but then the next 3 weeks, from the 3rd to the 6th, and this is where we are actually right now, is the 5th week of confinement, and we start to think business-wise, always to keep this defensive approach, trying to understand the mid to long-term impact of our company, protect our revenue, so phoning up all our clients, and in particular trying to redefine our budget, where we can implement cash preservation measures, where we can optimize, what we can postpone in terms of payments, what we can rearrange in terms of payments and suppliers. Though these are all the activities we have been doing right now. But also there is another element that starts to come into our minds as entrepreneur, which is the more proactive approach. We, and I believe that you all share my point of view, we start to understand now, bit by bit, we try to understand what this new economy is going to look like. And we tried also to understand what are the growth opportunities that this new economy can bring. We start to understand if we have any strategy that can outperform our competitors. And so we can also try to pivot and adjust our services, our products, our R&D effort to even be more adapted to this new economy to come. So Darwin was saying that the nimble are the ones surviving, and I think that this is exactly a classical Darwinistic situation, where the most agile, the most effective among us will be able actually to survive, overcome, and even benefit of the situation. I always remind that some of the most iconic companies were built during recessions, starting from Microsoft and Apple in the early 70s to Airbnb in 2008, Slack 2007 or 8, something like that, and moving forward to all these companies that were actually created during this crisis, because they understood that there was a shift in the needs of the clients, in the needs of the customers. And so an unaddressed need means an opportunity for a business. And so I think we are in this situation. We are really now in this midterm mitigation period, where on one hand we have this defensive, reactive still approach, and on the other hand we have also this more proactive approach. I invite you really to go and get this report, which is available and free. And I think you can get a lot of inspiration. Definitely, our entrepreneurs are already inspired, because now I'm going to provide you a bit more in detail what I mean by defensive and by offensive type of approach. In terms of defensive approach, I mean, this is a slide that, or an information within a slide that you all should be now be aware of. I mean, you should all know all the different measures that we have set up at the federal level, at the cantonal level, and also at our foundation level, a Fongit level, in order to really to address and try to mitigate all the risks we have ahead. And in particular, réduction de l'horaire du travail. This partial unemployment is an effective measure to reduce the burn rate of a company in 72 hours from the time you apply for this measure. And already we have about 20 startups at Fongit who had access to this. And that's incredible, because it's an incredible tool for being flexible when it comes to salary and ability to reduce costs for the company trying to survive this period. The second very powerful tool is the bank loan. Is an interest-free backed loan by the federal government. And of course, as we say it very often, this is not the ideal startup-friendly solution. We know that. Why? Because it relies on it's calculated based on revenues, 10% of revenues, or the masse salariale, so the payroll of the company. And there are startups, in particular deep tech startups, like life science startups or advanced engineering startups, which don't necessarily have the revenues. Definitely, that's a startup classic, but in particular, not even a big amount of salary. And in any case, the salary is capped in terms of loan provided at 50,000. So not a huge deal, but believe me, 50,000 in these circumstances is gold, because it allows us really to bridge these few months, hopefully, that will be able to get back to again an investor community active again to this type of kind of new normal that will allow us to bounce back. Then we have the reduce your burn rate. That is a general concern at different levels. The delay of payment of taxes and social charges, the AVS. This is a measure, if you remember, that I not normally, but I would say I tend to discourage, not to apply for that, in particular for companies that do not have revenues, because that is a slippery slope, that is a dangerous slope don't forget that you, as administrators of a company, you are personally liable for social charges and unpaid taxes. Then from the investment side, of course, it's important to remind you that it's difficult to raise money nowadays unless you have a signed term sheet, and you will see in a moment very good things happen to startups at Fongit. I mean, it's not the best moment to approach investors. This is the simplest way I can tell this. So unless you have already a term sheet in place, it's not the best moment, but you have already investors, hopefully. So talk to your existing investors. Those are the best people. Those are the best friends for you in these circumstances. And then, of course, awards and grants, they're still active. Non-dilutive money is the best money. So go and chase for all the awards and grants available around. And then Fongit in particular takes some specific measures. So if you are a Fongit supported startup, don't hesitate to contact your lead coach for having access to these special measures. So this is the defensive part. But I'd like to give you some examples of the more proactive part, where actually some of our startups are thriving under these circumstances because quicker than others, they're figuring out interesting new ways of exploiting the market to come. And you will see, and I'm sure if you think about your startup, if you think about your entrepreneurial endeavor, I'm sure you can frame it properly in this wave of low-touch economy, benefiting from the situation rather than passively reacting to it. So let me start with a classic example in the Geneva economy of a company, Magic Tomato. It's a food delivery platform for local 0-kilometer supplier, and this company was doing already very well. But of course, thanks to this speed of time, it boosted dramatically its revenues, its orders, and it's really growing extremely fast. Now, the ability of the entrepreneur, Paul, that you see in the picture, and he's the guy on the left, not the red on the guy on the right. So Paul, the guy on the left, is really an incredible entrepreneur, because in a very short amount of time, he has been able to scale up his logistic platform, his personnel, try to address and to serve all these new clients popping up. And so this is a typical approach of an agile method of increasing quickly and addressing the market needs. And Magic Tomato is doing great. Another very interesting example is this company here, Alohi. Alohi is doing something which is considered to be a dead technology. They do fax, fax, the paper fax, and they do digital fax. So is it a dead technology? Not at all. You see here on this graph the number of sign-ups per day of this company, and you see on the x-axis the days, the month, January 19 and January 20. So you see from January 20 the explosion that this company got. It means that fax is not only dead as technology, but is resilient in particular in these circumstances. So, but this is just the building block of this technology, because what the entrepreneur Ali is doing now is even going faster when it comes to all the research and development spending for arriving to get out a solution of digital signature, Swiss-based, that is going to be the real breakthrough for this type of technology. Just for you to understand, the main clients of this technology are based in the United States. So you see, it's not at all a dead technology. But on top of this, Ali and Alohi, they're building the digital signature and providing all different services that the companies are requiring. Like, for example, one thing that I know that Ali has worked very hard in the last weeks is the data residency, so the possibility to store for legal and compliance reasons the data in the countries where they are collected. So this is very important. Again, you see an entrepreneur that is profiting and is leveraging on this opportunity. And by the way, as we speak, I mean, in the last 3 weeks, so exactly in the period of crisis, Aloha was selected by all these reviewers down you see in the slide. So Tech Radar, Tom's Guide, Mash Tips, Top 10 Review, and PC Mags, as bit earlier, as the best digital fax solution worldwide. So you see an entrepreneur that sees the opportunity and even put more money at service to develop new things that will go and address their market and their clients' need. By the way, when I was mentioning before the companies that were actually succeeding and they were actually thriving during the crisis, I was mentioning Microsoft, Apple, Slack, Airbnb, Uber during 2008. All these companies, they have one thing in common. All of them, during the crisis, they invested a lot in R&D. So they've got even more focus and even more concentrated to deliver the best possible product. Of course, adapting the product to what the market was requiring, the new market was requiring. But this is exactly what, for example, Aloha is doing. So, and I'm happy to see this incredible growth of this company. Then another good example is Mikazaki. Mikazaki is a company developing an innovative, fully automated multi-patient ocular diagnostic platform. So again, low-touch economy. And guess what? They just closed a seed round this month. They were already in contact. They already had a term sheet with the investor. Blue Ocean Ventures and a big industrial player got in with money for this company. So well done. Another example of proactive approach. And then finally, another interesting example of proactive approach is the company Inverse. EPFL spin-off actually was born at the Genius, thanks to Ingeborg. And this company is taking these opportunities. They're doing 3D holograms, okay? And they're taking this opportunity to pivot from a pure entertainment industry to a more telepresence type of industry. As you know, we are virtually now, and you can do virtually video conferencing using Inverse, hopefully soon. They closed a fantastic deal as we speak, 2 weeks ago, with a big company. I cannot unfortunately disclose it, and hopefully will be public very soon, for exactly developing a solution addressing with live 3D holograms the social presence and the video conferencing solution. So, and last but not least, I would like to mention Ogurix. They was doing product for celiac, the celiac industry, and they took the opportunity to actually deliver one of the first COVID-19 diagnostic tests. They are now, they've been now validated. They have been validating the test within Ashuge and Shuv. Hopefully, in the next few days, they will get with a positive answer. And so we can say that one of Fongit's supported companies now is based in Valais, delivered one of the most effective COVID-19 tests. So this is what I wanted to just to give you this type of positive elements when it comes to thinking about proactive, how to deal with this crisis. And how to deal with this crisis, with this fil rouge, with this mindset of this low-touch economy. Like all the companies we are seeing, Mikazaki, Aloha, Magic Tomato, and Inverse, they are all thinking about how to adapt quicker, investing even more, not less, even more in what they're doing. And I think that you all can get inspiration from the good success stories that we are presenting here. But since we're talking about Ogurix, we're talking about life science. And if we need to talk about life science, I cannot do anything else than passing the microphone to Ingeborg. Ingeborg, just to tell about Genius, because actually today we are having the first joint Café Croissant, right? So yeah, maybe it's your turn to tell us a bit more what's up in Genius.
Yes, thank you, Antonio. So it's actually really great to see all these names popping up, comments from people that we usually see personally. It's very nice that everybody's here present online. So I just want to say hi to everybody. So this is the Genius virtual office, and we'd like to give you some news also from the startups at Campus Biotech Innovation Park. So the first startup that we'd like to talk about is OneDoc. So most of you may know OneDoc. They launched a platform for patients to book appointments with doctors online 2 years ago. Well, like many other companies, due to the crisis, obviously their core activity ceased to exist temporarily. So they had to find something new to do. And very quickly they really worked day and night to develop this new functionality, and they launched a way for doctors to actually have appointments with patients online. So it's an online consulting platform, and they've launched this 2 weeks ago, and already the numbers are going up super fast from not having this functionality at all to having 400 consultations per day through their current client base. So this is a very nice example how OneDoc really acted quickly. The whole team put their shoulders around, this new direction, and they're back up in business. And not only does this give OneDoc their ability to be back in business, but think about also the doctors who are now able to run their practices again, and obviously the patients who are helped. So I think what is really interesting here is to see that a startup can be very agile, can act very quickly, and push through these changes. But moreover, whereas current customers may not be your customers anymore in this new situation, there's also some change in customer behavior, because doctors were previously a bit resistant towards picking up this online consulting platform facility. But due to the crisis, this behavior actually changed, and the attitude towards the solution changed. So this is also to show that new possibilities arise. So the next startup that I'd like to discuss are based at Campus Biotech Innovation Park as well. They're CDAM, and this is a company that provides training for paramedics, so people who help save lives. And obviously, because they provide training programs, they couldn't continue with what they were doing either. But what they did is, apart from cutting costs and moving all the training programs to further in the year, he said, okay, let's stay active, but let's now reprioritize activities that we normally would have planned at another time. So they're relaunching partnerships. They're looking at strengthening their organizational operational structure, but also, moreover, they have been working on a very high-tech solution for the last 2 years, which they're now fast-tracking, and they are prototyping the solution to be able to launch in September, when everything is hopefully back to some sort of normal. So I think that's also a very great way of this company to stay active and use their resources in the right way. So so much for our startup news. In any case, for more information, if you want to refer to their website or any links or registration forms that we may mention, you can always find that information either in the comments on the right of the screen, or you can find us on Facebook and LinkedIn, where we will post all the relevant links and further information. You can always contact us because we're still here. So be reminded, if you are a company at Campus Biotech Innovation Park, the Foundation EPFL Innovation Park provides a financial package of £500,000, thanks to private donations that are available for those startups who needs it most. The deadline for this is tomorrow, in fact. So if you haven't checked it out yet, this is worth looking at. The EPFL Innovation Park also makes available their mentors and coaches in case you need advice or if you have questions. And if you have a very urgent need to restart using the facilities, this is also something you can discuss with them. However, this will be in accordance with the EPFL relaunch procedure. Now, as a last thing, we are continuing our workshops as well. We are also trying to meet the new needs of our customers. So we are very glad to announce our next workshop on the 30th of April. We're doing this together with the law firm Cosmovici, who are specializing in intellectual property. And we're going to talk about if you want to move some of all of your activities online, what to think about in terms of intellectual property. So stay tuned.
Thank you, Ingeborg. So I guess you are also looking, as we are at Fongit, to all the announcements that are coming from the federal government in terms of this kind of soft reopening of the facilities. So I guess that today or tomorrow, I think today there's going to be more visibility about how they plan to do this reopening. And really look forward to come again to meet you at Genius, and with all our partners. Hopefully, we are going to find another good moment for getting a coffee together. By the way, as you know, the federal government is also trying to give priorities to the reopening, and schools are among one priority. But even before school, apparently there are hairdressers. So I think this is an important element to consider and to mention. But so now talking about hairdresser, I think that we can move to the next and final part of our Café Croissant also, because we need to plan the future. We must plan the future, and there is no one better than James that can tell us a bit more how the future will look like for Fongit and for Fongit activities.
Yeah, thanks, Antonio. Yeah, I'm here, as I said, at the virtual command center of Fongit, connecting the coaches with the companies. And one key thing to anyone that's listening, if you have questions, just reach out to your coach. If you're not yet a Fongit or a Genius supported company, just sign up. It will take you 5 minutes, and we'll try and find how we can help you the best way, given your current context. It was fabulous to see already how our startups are repositioning themselves and trying to make the best of this crisis. And but our whole innovation nation is moving and wanting to keep on building the future. So the next event for the investors that are listening is from the Business Angels Switzerland. That's happening next Thursday at 6 o'clock. Until 8 o'clock, we'll have 4 pitches, including Schematic, which is a very exciting company, changing the way electric motors are made, and they're used in very exciting electric mobility projects at the moment. I'm not going to tell you which ones. You'll have to come to the event. And then also seeing Inverse's new telepresence solution live. So 4 pitches from 4 hot startups with the Business Angels Switzerland. At Fongit, we have a special affinity for the BAS because, number one, they're the first Swiss angel group, and we're the first incubator. And also, our chairman, Pierre, is a founder member of that. So if you're an investor, the invite will be going out around noon today. Look for it in your inbox and come and have a virtual session. The other thing is for startups, if you're in the digital space, the best way to get a warm introduction to an investor is via these angel investor events. And SICTIC, SICTIC, they are holding an event in collaboration with CERN, and the applications are still open. So I know that one of our top startups, Property, have applied. SICTIC, we can really recommend you listen to them. But if you've got a digital startup, that's a great organization to apply to. So a lot of us are going online, and Ingeborg mentioned the workshop that Genius is doing about the legal aspects of going online, what to consider. And we can warmly recommend that if you're considering that, if you're an early stage project. And on the other end of the spectrum, it's coming up to May. that's the period of the annual general meetings. And every year, Pierre comes and shares his experience of preparing for and running 21 annual general meetings for the startups. We'll also be covering the different roles in a company between the CEO. What do you really expect from a CFO? What should a CTO really be doing? Should they be coding, or should they doing the multi-generational product plan? So he'll be covering all of that on Thursday, the 7th of May. And you don't even need to travel to Fongit. You can see it online via Zoom. Unfortunately, the lunch you're going to have to make for yourself, and the networking side will be not as vibrant as normal. And of course, we don't know if it's going to be virtual. We don't know if it's going to be on site, but in all cases, the 14th of May will be there with the latest updates from the hottest startups at Fongit. And we'll keep you posted on all of our social channels. I would like to say a big thanks to the Fongit Marcom team for keeping us virtually aligned and connected to you guys. And please just keep on having your questions coming in. We're there as a foundation to support innovators and the innovation nation around us. And with that, let's move over to questions, Antonio.
Yes, with pleasure. We have any questions from our
Yeah, so Antonio, one of the questions you mentioned is you've been reviewing a lot of the successful companies of the 2008 recession, and you mentioned some of the characteristics. Could you just say a few more words about what distinguished the winners and the losers coming out of that?
Yeah, I think again, it's not my opinion. Is more the just reading what happened, and if you go and really you go through the different companies, you see that Microsoft really in 1975 was actually getting out from the big recession, 16-month recession, where the GDP in United States took the worst hit in nearly 2 decades. The same thing for Apple. Actually, Apple was a phoenix, 75 and then 2001. And every time there was this recession moment, there was kind of this turning point, this inflection point for the companies and the economy. Another good example, I think, to remind is Netflix. Netflix was created in 1997 and was actually about to collapse during the dot-com bubble. If you remember, they got in 2000, when there was a dot-com bubble, they got offered to be acquired by Blockbuster. Remember Blockbuster at that time for 50 million. And what Netflix did at the beginning, Netflix was just a physical DVD to share. And to rent. In the end, all these companies, and I can go on, MailChimp in 2001, Airbnb in 2008, Warby Parker, the one of the lenses of the glasses in 2010, they all got their tipping point, or they just were born in those years, and all they share the same characteristics, all of them. If you go through what they have done, always the same. They focused on the product. So it means that you can cut everything in terms of costs. You can cut the office. You can cut. You can stay in your garage, but you don't cut ever the R&D, because you are going to succeed because of your product. The product that can be adapted, can be adjusted, can be pivoted, as we have seen in the example of Inverse. But never you reduce the cost on the R&D, in particular in these circumstances, because the startups, they have an incredible advantage compared to the larger companies. They're much more flexible, they're much more agile. What scares us in terms of burn rate of a startup, 20K, 50K, 100K, is still insignificant for a larger company. So you understand that the burden of the cash burn for a larger company can really sink the company, while the startup really is much more agile. So I really invite all our startups to take inspiration, but also to study in depth what was the business case of the other companies that succeeded and thrived during the circumstances. You will always see the same guideline, which is investing in R&D doesn't stop. Quite the opposite. It increases during this period.
Yeah, and we've had the question for Nora for a link to that report. We'll send that in the comments shortly. But it really is fascinating. The people that went on to win doubled or tripled their R&D spend. The other important thing that Ingeborg covered in her recent Genius event called Innovators Unite was make sure you're innovating in the right direction. So you've got to get that customer feedback. You've got to listen to them, because if you say, well, I've spoken to 100 people, and that was before the crisis, investors and people will not really count that. And it's so crucial to be able to say, well, we've spoken to people and in fact, nothing has changed, or they want our product even more, or we're changing. But make sure you do that and you align your R&D firepower in the right direction. So Nora will send you a link to that. And then we had another question that I can answer quickly from Michael Liu. I'm not a startup currently coached by Fongit, but I'd like advice. So the best way to get that advice and make sure that we give the appropriate advice to your situation is to go to fongit.ch, apply, and explain your current situation, and we'll get back to you within 24 hours on that.
Yeah. Also, if I can add to the question of Michael, also on our social, we posted already and we keep updated a startup survival guide that lists all the different measures that are in place from both the federal and the cantonal level and the Fongit level. So you can go and check that. We update it regularly because, of course, as for us, this is a kind of a moving target also for our government. So they're also updating every time, and they're adjusting the type of support they provide. So, for example, I'm expected to get something new and hopefully positive also for the Geneva startups starting next week. So I think it will be very important for you to stay tuned and to go and check our startup survival guide.
Yeah, that's definitely the key resource to be looking for. And yeah, we're keeping our fingers crossed, Antonio. We know you've been working late into the night to advise our politicians about what support is really needed by startups. And you mentioned also that you're expecting some announcements from the federal government about the gradual reopening. Can you tell us a bit more about the timeline on that and what you're expecting in terms of the way? Is it just everything is going to open in a few weeks, or how do you think it's going to happen?
Well, I mean, of course, I don't know. I don't know more than you do. What I suspect that, of course, the opening will be done progressively, starting with priorities. And I was mentioning hairdresser as one of them. And after hairdresser, I guess schools, and I guess all the remaining part. Of course, the productive sector needs to start back again. I think this is something really an uncharted territory, and for all of us, including our politicians. Sometimes we expect politicians to look in the future more than we do. In fact, that's not possible. And what I see from my experience, also from other countries nearby, they are adjusting or adapting. So a bit the government, a bit like startups, in my opinion, they are learning this agile type of mechanism of quick iteration of something. And I guess that the reopening will be done probably even more effectively than the way we closed beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So I suspect that we will see some kind of learning process also from our governments. I'm not talking about Switzerland, I'm talking about Europe in general. And I see personally my homeland and the difficult times that we are living back in Italy. And I think we are learning by doing as well there.
Yeah, absolutely. There was rumors this morning that they will do an announcement and wait 3 weeks to see, how the cases evolve and then make the next step, which seems to be a very pragmatic and fact-based approach. So yeah, there are a lot worse places to be at the moment than Switzerland.
Yeah.
So we've got a question from Gilles Boss asking, do we have any initiatives at Fongit for the procurement of masks? So I think at the moment the priority is that any of that kind of equipment, the Swiss government and the Swiss medical and military get first rights to any of that kind of equipment, and we support that.
But to complete the question of Gilles, I think that this new normal will definitely require, in this new low-touch economy type of setup, definitely probably, let's say, to wear masks much more regularly. So with that extent, I'm constantly in contact with the state of Geneva to get, as soon as it becomes mandatory to wear masks, to get the best access to masks as well. So to get to your point, we take care of our safety and the people around us. So definitely we are going to have the solution when this new measure, and if this new measure will come into place. Yes. Then I can also tell you that we received at Fongit some very interesting projects regarding masks. As you might know, we have quite an experience in that from University of Geneva in the past, of some very interesting projects that managed to come back in a very positive way, and we're very happy to see the project of masks of the old ancient viral block to come back now live again. But we also receive new interesting projects, for example, using copper within masks. And I will tell you, I hope I can tell you more in a few weeks about it. So also we think about technological advancement and disruption also in this field. There was also another question from Nico, I think. Maybe Ingeborg, you want to take this answer?
Yes, with pleasure. Hi, Nico. So you're asking advice for people from the life sciences community who just finished their PhD, who'd like to switch from academia to the private sector, in particular being interested in startups. So yes, absolutely. So a few steps you can undertake. Connect first up with the life sciences community through connecting with Genius on Facebook, LinkedIn, or social media, just to see what's happening. You're always welcome to take part of our events. That's the best way to also connect to the members of the community. And Genius also works with other communities. We have close connections with the larger, corporates, but also research institutions, but other life sciences platforms such as BioAlps or the Geneva Pharma Network. So it's kind of a lever. Once you're connected to us, we'll help you be connected to the other organizations as well, and that will help you actually to find new opportunities. So I hope that helps.
And one thing that all of our innovators enjoyed, regardless of their state of maturity, are the InnoSuisse courses. They're now continuing online. There's one if you're an early stage, which is called Business Concept. You can find that on science2market.ch. I don't know when the next opening is on that course, but that's a fabulous way to learn about innovation and startups. Myself, I'm using this time to do some of the online courses that are available. There's a very good one that we use as coaches in parallel to our coaches, both at Fongit and at Genius, which is called startup-accelerator.org. And they have great trainings on how to pitch, what to ask to which kind of customer, and how even to build a social kind of startup, managing your IP. Those are great videos that have the best practices from Switzerland. So you don't need to just sit here and wait for things to reopen. You can really prepare.
Yeah. Do we have any other question?
Well, I think, you know, as a final question, Antonio, what surprised you the most in the current situation, and is there anything you like startups to continue doing, do more of, or do less of?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think what I'm always surprised is to see how quickly people and we all as people react to things. And that happens in a good way and a bad way. And I give you a couple of examples. We were completely, in a certain way, shocked, but this entire situation. It looks so weird that it's almost unbelievable. And how can you imagine to start to spend 5 weeks of your life confined at home, in captivity with your families, full of kids that needs to, on top of it to do school. And I think we are managing it. We are all managing it. We start to learn this type of promiscuous setup, also in this working and personal lives, that in the end shows how resilient we are. This is the good part. The bad part is also that as the same rapidity that we all started to think and to adapt to this new balance, we also adapt. And I read nowadays, in particular, starting probably 2 weeks ago, to see a lot of articles of the so-called futurologist, or maybe just simply thinker, defining a catastrophic world moving forward. You know, that we are going to stay confined at home forever, and that was actually obvious that's going to come. It was just a question of time. Yes, of course. I mean, this is a risk. This is a threat that we should have, of course, taken it much more seriously back in 2005, I guess, when Bill Gates was, or 7, I don't remember, was already mentioning it during this TED. But you know what? Things happen, and the world will not finish. So once again, I keep saying what I try to say. The world is not going to finish now. We, as the marmot of the first slide, we start to look out of the hole and we start to see what's around us. And the same resilience that we showed and we have proven to be effective in our personal, domestic environment, we will be able to bring it outside. So the world will not finish. The economy will go on. It will be, of course, redefined. As we discuss together very often, is going to be probably better. We hope it is going to be better. So what the entire environmental movements wasn't not able to do, just one small, tiny virus probably managed to achieve. And that's good. That's good. So we'll be in a better world, but the world will not finish. So people are adapting, but people are also very, very imaginative when it comes to catastrophic and dystopian worlds. No, I think the world will be there, a better place. And so we are there to wait for seize and to get all the opportunities out of it. So this is what surprised me. Surprised me the incredible resilience of the human being as a whole. Hopefully we will be able to cooperate even more. Hopefully we'll be able also to be at the governmental level to arrange more reactively the appropriate answers to this type of threats, because that's just the beginning. This is the first one of many to come, but the world will be a better place and the human beings will be better altogether. And yeah, so that's my takeaway. So I'm very proud to be a human being, in fact.
Great. So yeah, I think our message to everyone online is let's keep building the future. And we look forward to seeing you all at the latest on the 14th of May for our next Café Croissant, but hopefully for all of the other events. And we're there for you to help you innovating forwards.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.